Hello, investors. This is Todd Thomas, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Saturday, May 14th. The time is 11:25 a.m. Coming to you from Boca Raton, Florida to bring you the Revere Roundup Weekend Walkthrough. State of the market, three up green arrows, still maintaining a green arrow in the leaders, as well as the short-term 21 EMA and the medium-term 50 EMA. Both the Nasdaq and the S&P are currently above the 200-day moving average for the past few weeks. However, we still have a yellow sub arrow as the longer-term moving averages continue to work out, as well as small caps and mid caps continue to trade below the 200-day moving average. What happened last week? Early in the week, the U.S. and Chinese officials reached a framework to implement the Geneva Consensus following 2 days of trade talks in London. The main focus of the talks were rare earth exports, tech restrictions, and tariff levels. Final approval is still in progress between President Trump and Xi. They both agreed to leave tariffs at 55% on China and 10% Chinese will charge U.S. Also, Boeing shares fell 5% on the week after one of their 787s, which was owned by Air India, crashed after takeoff, killing all but one. On the economic news front, the CPI for May rose 0.1%, with both headline and core showing a year-over-year increase of 2.4% and 2.8% respectively, indicating inflation is cooling. The expectations were for a 0.2% increase. This was largely due to a temporary pullback in energy costs, with gas down 12% from last year. Shelter, however, was up 3.9%. Also, wholesale inflation, the PPI, came in slightly less than expectations. The University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index showed a strong rebound, rising to 60.5 from 52.2. This was the first improvement in 6 months, with the inflation outlook dropping to 5.1% from 6.6% in May. NVIDIA also had a slew of announcements this past week with a bunch of European government, telecom companies, and cloud providers at the GTC Paris conference. And they also said, Jensen said that quantum computing is reaching an inflection point as well, which sent some of the quantum stocks higher on the week. The S&P continued Monday through Thursday above 6,000, making 5 consecutive days above that key 6,000 level, but sliced through it on Friday, closing below the 8 EMA for the first time since May 23rd. This was a result of Israel, which launched attacks on Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities and targets key military and government officials. Iran struck back by launching a missile attack and a drone attack on Israel, causing crude oil to surge on the week. Now, how do markets typically react to major shock events in the stock market? Well, here is a list going back to 1941. The most severe instances were Pearl Harbor and North Korea invaded South Korea, as well as Iraq's invasion of Kuwait and 9/11. However, in general, most of these situations lead to a fairly small overall situation. Now, over the years, the median 1-day percent move is minus 0.4%. The total drawdown throughout history is a negative 2.85%. Days to bottom, 9.5 days, and days to recover, 19 days. So depending on whether this escalates and draws more into this situation will determine how deep and how severe this pullback will last. As a result of this attack on the nuclear facilities, crude oil spiked as high as 77 and change and backed off and closed at 72.98. Crude oil started its move actually on Thursday before. Just a random chart here that's been going around showing aggregate financial asset allocation across household. You can see that we are at record highs in terms of allocation to equities by US households. And again, this is not alarming since the great financial crisis. This has been climbing, backed off a little bit during COVID, but has been climbing steadily into new high territory for the last couple of years. On the heat map for the week, Apple was down 3.66% they had a disappointing worldwide developer conference where they failed to deliver on last year's promises, let alone a weak lineup for this year in terms of agentic AI. Avgo and the semiconductors were generally green across the board, with Micron once again being the standout on the week, up 6.4%. IBM up 3% on the week. Tesla with a 10% recovery after last week's severe sell-off with Musk's and Trump's escalation. Raytheon and the defense manufacturers were up on the week, around 4 to 5%. Boeing, despite the crash, was down a modest 4.9% on the week. And most of the Mag 7 were mixed across the board. Lilly was a standout, up 6.4% after several weeks of weakness. And you can see the oil and gas sector were the standouts as well. ExxonMobil, Chevron, and many of the natural gas stocks were strong beneficiaries of the attack. Visa up or down almost 5%, and MasterCard on the stable coin announcement by Amazon and Walmart last week, potentially displacing their status or oligopoly status. In general, the markets were down modestly on the week, with most of the losses occurring on Friday. The VIX was up 8.5%, back over 20 again. Gold stood out, up 5.5%. Silver with another gain on the week. And in general, European stocks and emerging markets were flat to up on the week. Bond markets were up on the week as well, as yields mostly declined on the PPI and CPI. And Bitcoin with a 0.8% gain on the week. Energy XLE up 5.6%, XOP up 7.7%. Semiconductors up 1.6% on the week. Russell 2000 leverage was down 4.4%. Earnings-wise, Lennar comes out on Monday after the close. Jabil on Tuesday before the open. And Kroger, Darden Restaurants, CarMax. On the economic front next week, we have the big news of the week is going to be the FOMC rate decision. Fed is not anticipated to increase rates, decrease or cut rates. However, we'll hear what their thoughts are on inflation. The first meeting that is anticipated to see a 25 basis point cut is October now, and that's about a 77% chance. Otherwise, we have the Philly Fed Index, leading indicators, as well as some other numbers in the industrial production and capacity utilization, as well as retail sales and Empire State Manufacturing. Now, going to the charts. On the week, the S&P 500 was down 0.39%. And looking at the daily chart, we spent 5 days above the 6,000 level from last Friday to Thursday. We're looking pretty good, within a couple percent of the all-time highs, and then had a drop of 1.13% on heavier volume. Again, distribution stacking up on the S&P, 4, 5, 6 distribution days now on the S&P. Somewhat of a cluster, however, we still remain in the power trend. This was the first close below the 8 EMA, which is the pink average, since we came back through it here. Actually, I'm sorry, since this day here. That was a sell-off on Trump's tariff, which we tested the 200-day moving average. So still overall technically healthy. However, definitely some distribution piling up with the news flow lately. NASDAQ Composite down 0.63% on the week and also below the 8 EMA. Qs, again, showing distribution as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days there, and a drop once again below the 8 EMA on heavier volume on Friday. Very close to all-time highs, however, and it is natural and normal for us to be pulling back at this time. RSP, tight formation, down 1.3% on the week. In general, back to the 200-day moving average. And QQE, the equal weight, down 1% on the week. And again, close to the 21 EMA, however, still overall strong in the NASDAQ 100. Mid-caps rejected at the 200-day moving average twice now, and back below 21 EMA as well. So again, small caps down 1.49%, also rejected this week at the 200-day moving average after this potential head and shoulders bottom formation. And again, declining 200-day moving average, holding up on the week at the 21-day moving average. ARC, still up 1.73% on the week, and actually bounced pretty strongly off the 21 or the 8 EMA on Friday. VIX back above 20, and again, volatility picking up as we shot up on the Israeli attacks. US dollar continues to make new lows, down 1% on the week. Again, undercut the lows of April and rallied on Friday, as there was potentially some flight to safety to the US dollar. However, not what you would typically see in healthier times for the US government. The 30-year Treasury yields were slightly down at 4.9 on the 30-year, and the 10-year yields were down 0.86 at 44.24. So again, did bounce a little bit on Friday, which is a little unusual. Typically, you would get a flight to safety in U.S. bonds. Perhaps there's some concerns about the U.S. getting, dragged into a potential war situation with Israel, Iran, and blowing out the deficit more. That's potentially a reason why. Bitcoin with a 3-week tight, up slightly on the week, and again, continues to get rejected at all-time highs. However, closing tight, tight on the lower end of the weekly ranges now for 3 weeks straight. Semiconductors up 1.6% on the SOXX, which is a more diversified ETF, closing right on the 8 EMA. And the SMH also closing right on the 8 EMA, up 1.6%. So in general, many semiconductors looking healthy. And NVIDIA, again, with several announcements this week, looking strong. Uranium up 7.4%. This is a uranium ETF. So once again, extremely strong week for the uranium total return ETF. Gold up 3.6%, pushing this all-time high level. I believe this is a weekly closing all-time high. Silver up 0.86%. Again, not giving much back here, but not as strong as gold this past week. And gold miners with a new closing all-time high, up 5.5% on the week. And the MAG The Round Hill Mag 7 up slightly 0.85 on the week and closing right on the 8 EMA. Again, very strong chart here. Going to the Mag 7 individual names, Apple being the weakest, down 3.6%. Again, their worldwide developer conference failed to deliver, and basically no show of agentic AI or improvements in the Siri digital assistant. So Apple definitely fears starting to emerge that Apple is falling behind the AI curve. And again, you can see all the moving averages. You look at the weekly, the stock is trading above all its weekly averages, including the 10-week moving average. So looking extremely weak. Amazon, which tried to break out of this cup with handle formation this week, pulled in a little bit, closing right around the 8 EMA. Again, relative strength at best going sideways lately, not a leading stock currently. Google up 0.57% on the week again, not necessarily leading either, but trading above all of its moving averages currently. And again, the longer term average is still declining on this name. Meta down 2% on the week, has been very strong. And Microsoft, new all-time closing highs, up 0.97%, and definitely the leading stock of the Mag 7. Extremely strong. NVIDIA, basically a 2-week tight right now, 0.18% change on the week. Overall, pretty quiet action, sitting right around its 8 EMA. And relative strength definitely improving. Not necessarily a leader, Avgo being the leader. And Tesla was the winner on the week, up 10.2%, reclaiming the 200-day moving average on Monday and following through and hanging above both its 8 EMA and the 21 EMA on the daily, still under that 30 weekly average, but looking better as we approach the RoboTaxi event on June 22nd. All right, getting to the stock watch list on the week. Again, I'm sorting this really by my top flag symbols, since there are a lot of extended stocks. And CCJ is also extended, but the big news here is, and William Blair noted this, Westinghouse, which CCJ owns with another venture capital firm, is the top pick for the construction of 10 nuclear projects throughout the world. And this was realized last week as it gapped on Monday. It was up 10.7% on Monday on huge volume. So again, this looks extremely strong. Huge volume on the week. Relative strength making new highs and broke out to all-time highs. So the stock has now surpassed these old highs from back in 2006. So that's, again, overall the highest weekly close and all-time close here. So a very strong situation. CLS, contract manufacturer, again, just riding along its ADMA. Mastech, strong. EQT, we highlighted several of these oil and gas plays. This is a 6-week tight here, pushing up against its all-time highs. Going back, so very close, very tight on the weekly, good volume, relative strength starting to rise here. BWTX is a manufacturer of nuclear power plant components, showing ant formations and a breakout of this large cup base this week. relative strength making new highs, so several of these nuclear plays are looking quite good. Tempest AI. Again, this is a stock that Toddzilla owns, as well as TurboTection. Connor went through his trade on this, and this is showing strong action in the AI medical area. Nebus, again, made new highs, reversed on the week, down 2%. This has been a very strong stock. Pulled back just below its ADMA. Would be nice to see this handle out a little bit and provide another entry. LPLA, again, has been trading very tight along this pivot. Spotify, definitely been a leading stock here, not prone to any issues with tariffs, and closed very strong on the week. Again, this is a liquid leader. Credo is a data center play. They make high-speed interconnections where they allow the semiconductors and the data center to communicate in and out of the data center. This is a stock that had extremely strong earnings, gapped up, pulled back, shook out below the lows of the first 2 days, and then rallied back up through. This is a name that Toddzilla took a position in this week. Again, the appealing thing here are these triple-digit earnings and sales numbers, extremely strong. Again, very few customers because the hyperscalers are their main customer, Amazon being their largest, rumored to be about 61% of their total revenues. Pan American Silver, again, with silver making new highs, very strong action on the week, into the pivot zone, up 1.2%. NRG Energy, which we've highlighted, pulled back to its 21 EMA and held, providing a potential entry off this 21 EMA. PWR in the construction area continues to basically trade tight. Wheaton Precious Metals, a gold and silver miner, looking good. Oklo, this is a reactor company. Again, huge week. CCJ and Oklo, the leaders on the week, up 26%. Just looking for a potential entry here. Again, was up huge on Wednesday. And then I believe they had an offering, a convertible offering on Thursday night. SMR is another nuclear module reactor company, which has been very strong. Palantir stood out on the week, up 7.5%. Again, this is a follow-through day leader coming off the lows. Again, nice shakeout, reversal off the bottom of the cup base. Built this little handle, broke out, traded sideways and squatted, shook out below this 21 EMA. New highs on the week. Very strong situation. DoorDash also a high close on the week, very tight. Shake Shack down 4%, but still looking strong in the restaurant group. Viva Systems trading basically 3 weeks tight. Brinker International looks decent here in the restaurant group. Again, forming this cup with handle base. Guidewire was a standout this week on earnings. Actually, the week before last, and again, basically held the ADMA and is showing some strength here. Dollar General with a new stage 2 uptrend coming off this long stage 4 base and gapped up on earnings. And Root, very strong earnings gap back here, as well as an earnings shakeout here, forming a new little cup base. Just one to keep an eye on. Gen Digital broke through this cup with handle base, pulled back a little bit on Friday. Astera Labs with basically a 4-week tight. Again, tight with low weekly closing ranges, trading right along the 21 EMA. With those low weekly range closes, would like to see a pretty high volume move. It tried on Thursday. I actually tried a position in this on Thursday, but punted it just because it closed. It wasn't able to follow through here. And with the news and the potential for escalation, I'm not going to sit around and in a stock that just didn't follow through on my buy. HIMS is another one that looks decent here. It's definitely holding the 21 EMA. Again, this funky reversal off the highs has been kind of keeping a lid on this. However, I'm sure every IBD style trader has a stop loss set below the 21 EMA. So watch for a potential shakeout below this 21 EMA, potentially coming down to this level and reversing. That's what I would do here, or a solid breakout above 60. Oracle with a huge earnings report, up 23% to all-time highs after this 40% drop off of the highs of December. Overall, huge quarter. The CEO cited a large backlog of cloud business, and he also said growth will be dramatically higher during the fiscal year 26 year. And cloud infrastructure has been the go-to business destination for enterprises. So Oracle is definitely becoming an old tech company that's finding its niche in the data center and AI. Okay, and in the natural gas and oil area, Range Resource with a nice cup and handle breakout. Again, this stock's been choppy. It's failed to hold its breakouts. However, all these natural gas stocks are looking very similar here and coming up upon multi-year highs, going all the way back to 2022 here, which they're now all tightly trading above. Antero Resources, another one here, which is coming upon this old 22 high. This is a company that does both oil and gas, and they're a feedstock company for LNG. I think 75% of their production goes to LNG. So again, looking strong, relative strength improving, and broke through the cup and handle base on Friday. Expand Energy, this is another natural gas play after a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 6-week tight. Closed slightly down on the week. Was weak Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but perked back up on Friday here. So this looks pretty good too. Again, this is one of the few ones trading higher than those old highs from back in 22. Energy Fuels, which is a uranium mining company. Just wanted to highlight this. This is a low price stock. However, it did have a good week. It's showing a lot of nice accumulation here the last couple of weeks. You can see all these big blue bars here. So this is a name that does trade some decent volume. It's a very small company, however. Kratos, drone manufacturer, up 3%, again approaching the profit-taking zone. AEM up against this cup with handle buy point. In the Chinese stock area, this is a brokerage firm, and again, Futu had a breakout attempt here, kind of an earnings reversal here, coming back in. Look for the stock to potentially tighten up. If you're inclined to own a Chinese stock, this looks like one of the better ones. Gold Fields in the gold miners area looks good. Mosaic, a new stage 2 uptrend after a multi-year downtrend here. Double bottom type action off the lows. And again, pull back just below the 21 EMA and a strong pocket pivot on Friday. So it's commodity name, fertilizer. KGC. Another flag name, Lamentum Holdings. This is a company that makes V-cell lasers, which are used in conjunction with LiDAR. Again, this stock had earnings back here, had a pretty nice move. It's been trading very tightly above 80 and holding its 80 MA. Toddzilla tried a position here on Thursday, closed down, but still, still pretty tight here. So I decided to kind of keep this one to see how it did through next week, 2-week tight formation here. One of the appealing things here, this is a big earnings turnaround play as well as sales turnaround play. Another gold miner breaking through. This is an oil service and machinery stock, FTI. This is breaking through a double bottom base this past week. And again, decent numbers here and new all-time highs for this stock. Insulet is a pullback to the 10-week moving average. This had a very strong earnings reaction, pulled back close to its first day gap bar. So watching this to see if it resurges itself from here in the medical equipment area. A couple solar stocks are standing out. Nextracker has been one that we've highlighted here for a while. Again, a couple pullbacks close to the 21 EMA, but strong close on the week and still trading inside the earnings gap bar here, which got rejected at all-time highs. And, just spending a few weeks consolidating after that gap. Taiwan Semiconductor, again, they reported their monthly sales this week and had a 40% increase, which was better than expected. Stock backed off a little bit on Friday. However, it's holding its 8 EMA and looking like a new leader in the semiconductor area. Transmedics Group, which is another Toddzilla holding, is doing a good job after its earnings gap. Rallied in the new recent high territory, retested that earnings gap high, and now continues to ride the 8 EMA higher. Hammer Sports, again, just consolidating. Axon, again, after breaking out into new highs, trading tightly above the pivot. Talon Energy was a breakout this week. This is a power generator. And I believe they announced, was it Amazon or Facebook is going to be using one of their nuclear power plants. Lemonade, more speculative name we're watching. And GE Verona just taking a quiet 1.3% pullback on the week. Did test the 21 EMA on Tuesday, held, and basically closed right on that 8 EMA. So that's what you want to see. Again, has not gotten to the profit-taking zone yet, but working its way up there. LEU, a TurboTection holding, which they took some profits on, up 13% on the week. Robinhood with an inside week, up down 3% on the week, but still riding the 8 EMA after breaking through these all-time highs, coming up on its IPO highs here at, just above $86. CrowdStrike hanging in there. Ovgo with a 2-week tight after earnings, building a handle from this cut base. Again, another stock, 90% run here. Entitled to a little break. Notable is this huge reversal on the low of that. And huge volume here down at the low. Toast has not been able to gain any traction after this earnings gap. However, maybe building this flat base type formation. This is about a 10% range from high to low. We'll see if it can hold up in this range, but broke the 21 EMA. Again, not looking terrible by any means, but looking more like it wants to build a base here, potentially. Snowflake, one of the liquid leaders, down 1.5% on the week, but still holding that 8 EMA. Again, this looks like a potential leader. Seagate, extended. Cloudflare, after a huge move also from the bottom, um, broke below its ADMA and building a handle. CyberArk down 4% on the week, same situation. ICO just trading a 3-week tight up here after earnings. And AST Space Mobile with a big standout this week, up 23%. Continued breaking through this big cup base. Vistera in the power generation area looking decent. Mr. Cooper in the mortgage servicing area broke out through this cup base and is holding tightly as interest rates are pulling back. This has been a pretty steady grinder here for the last couple of years. In the quantum area, QUBT reversed off the highs on the week, but still above the ADMA. And, again, a beneficiary of Jensen's positive comments toward quantum, where he walked back quantum still 30 years away to quantum now becoming in focus as a potential valid technology. Now, this is not necessarily actionable. However, some of these longer weekly moving averages are turning back up, but you can see this this 40-week moving average is still pointing straight down. But I wanted to point it out along with Next Tracker. Solar Edge was able to break through these old highs on the week. And again, they're not making money. This has been an abysmal stock really for the last couple of years after peaking here. Massive stage 4 downtrend, starting to build this stage 1 base, but looking interesting. So I just wanted to show it. Looking at TAN, still below the 200-day moving average, but testing it again for the second time. Again, not viable here, but looking like potentially a couple names in this area perking up. AVAV in the drone area. This looks pretty good here. CoreWeave, this massive high tight flag formation. NVIDIA partner. Sorry about my drawing, but just holding tight here. It doesn't look like it's done yet after this move off of 34 to 160. CLAC now approaching this consolidation buy point. Another stock showing relative strength in the semiconductor area. Raytheon, new highs. A couple of these defense manufacturers. CF Industries, relative strength making new highs. This is another fertilizer company with Mosaic showing relative strength out of this long stage, stage 1 base, really. Micron has been showing a lot of strength here, several weeks above the 200-day moving average now, and earnings coming out in a couple weeks. Again, not really any type of pattern here, but another semi-name showing some strength. Northrop Grumman up 5.5% on the week and back above its 200-day moving average. XOP, that actually shouldn't be on here, but that's the end of my stock watch list for the week. Again, thank you for your time this weekend. Look forward to presenting next weekend to you. My email is todd@revereasset.com. If you have any questions, please, we appreciate likes, follows, and shares on X. My X handle is @ToddMichael70. If you'd like to become a client, please call us at 855-REAL-WEALTH. Have a great trading week ahead.